unfair just to be totally basing it all on it's Rangers that are the problem, because and that's nothing to do with the fact that I'm an ex-Rangers player. I must say that right now. I'm not defending the club for that reason. I'm defending the club because I'm seeing it from an objective point of view, from a neutral point of view, and just trying to look at it and say that we've got to act in a fair and honest manner when we're talking about these issues, not getting carried away with maybe any background you've got. As I say, and it's easier for me to an certain extent because I was brought up in a Kilmarnock fans household who, and there was no religious bias and like that in my family at all. So I'm a lot easy to say, but you know what? Sometimes just because of the fact I've been at Rangers, a lot of people won't see that, won't accept that. So that's the problem I've got. I'm back in the media now. As you said before, I realised what it was like when I went into the SFA job. I saw who were the ones who were automatically, were against me, and I'm having to work with some people maybe who are in that position now. I'm quite comfortable with that. I can go and do my job. I'm quite happy with how I look at things, and as I say, I don't have any agenda. It was a big thing. In fact, I remember even when I was in the job at the SFA, they were saying I would never have Craig Levein as manager because he had released my son from Dundee United. And people were quite clearly saying I had an agenda against him. So he gets the job, and I'm involved in that. And and that does that show that regardless of what he did to my son, that I'm above that? And I think it does, because I had no agenda against him, but other people said I did, because it's that typical thing of people create a situation rather than wait to see what the truth is. Now, if he hadn't got the job, people would have said he didn't get the job because of me. That's what they would have said.
Of course, yeah.
But as it was, we appointed Craig Levein. He's the Scotland manager now, because I'm not that type of person. I do not have any grudges against people. So I'm working with people now who were critical of me when I got to the SFA job, who didn't want me to do well, wanted me to fail, but I don't hold them a grudge. I work on, because that's my personality, and it's all about dealing with your character and dealing with other people's character.
I can see a wee bit of the Jock Wallace attitude is obviously ingrained in you then,
Yeah, I think, a lot of respect for people who are like that, and that's the way I am. I can just go on with my life, and I don't have any, say, resentment, and I don't have any, would you say, there's no way I want any revenge or anything like that. I'm not like that.
Not interested?
Not interested. I just look after myself and my family, and that's it.
So I'm interested in, from your experience as a player, agent, reporter, SFA, how do you feel regarding the recent uproar in the Old Firm games? In my opinion, and it's only my opinion I would state, is that there's far too much of the police and media and political involvement. I think they exaggerated a situation in the last few matches that didn't really exist.
Yeah, there's a situation has been created here, because what happened was years ago, there was a whole scenario of fans were singing stuff. Might not have been acceptable because a lot of fans do it every club, and you might say, but nobody was bothered. It was just like on a match day, that was it was sung. But then all of a sudden it became a big issue about the songs, what they're singing and all that, and it has become much more of a situation these days that people are looking at everything. It's much more political correctness to everything that's happening, even football banter. You could probably pull people up for everything that happens in a football match. Every fan, the crowd could say something. If you're a player, you could probably go and have somebody arrested. I played in England for years and was called a jock this and Scottish B and all that. I never thought for a second that was racism. I just thought, I'm Scottish and they're having a go at me because I'm upsetting them. You know what I mean? But nowadays this becomes this big thing about we have to have all these issues, racism and sectarianism and all that. So it's here, but I think they are making more of a fuss of it than in previous years. They're trying to make some sort of big issue. That if sectarianism is not a great thing, but it's only if it results in action being taken, and that's when it becomes bigotry. Bigotry is when people are taking action against another sect because they hold certain beliefs against them. That's different if they're actually making an effect on it. But I think there's been a bit too much of late of the government getting involved because of the Old Firm thing, because they could probably go to every match on a Saturday and have the same issues of everything that's happening. So I do want to see certain things cut out. I do think, and I've spoken about this for a long time, there are certain aspects of it as if they are regarded totally as being anti another religion or against a race and like that. We should be dealing with that. There's no question of that. But sometimes it just goes too far and we're making a big issue out of football.
Yeah.
But I think that hopefully that we can clean the game up to that extent and make it such that we get back to just talking about football again.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So back to the lighter side of things, you're obviously focusing a lot of debates on the various Rangers internet forums and fanzines, etc. and all that. I don't know if you ever get to read them, but you probably hear about the banter that flies your way. How do you feel about summing up?
My pals tell me about some of the things on it, and they tell me to go and have a look at it. I think I'm maybe better not, because I once did it with a Celtic website. I went in and had a look at what they were saying, and it was quite funny because they were saying it was something I'd said something about Paul Le Guen when we had a great result in Europe and they won in Italy, and I was on the TV talking about it, and I had said it was amazing because one Celtic fan, my pals got in touch with me with Celtic fans there, and they said you should have a look at the site, and this Celtic fan said, oh, Smith says Le Guen is a better manager than Jock Stein, and the next entry somebody said, did Smith actually say that? And the guy went, no, but you could see he was thinking it. And that went from you could see he was thinking it to then like screeds of Smiths that this and that. It was slaughtering me on the basis that you could see I was thinking something, So that's what these things are like. So you're probably better staying out of it and not going and looking too much. People will have a go. It was quite funny. Bob Cramsey worked on the radio years ago with him, and he said something to me after one day I was criticised for something that I hadn't actually said, and he said, Gordon, he says, you need to be aware, he says, most of your critics will be motivated by 3 conditions. And I said, what do you mean? He said jealousy, bigotry or ignorance. He says most of them will be motivated by one of those 3. He says some will fall into more than one category, and I always remember that from Bob, and I say, okay, I accept it. So people say things about me, and a lot of times they'll have no truth in it.
Players and the main players in the Jock Wallace team played on to the late 30s.
Yeah.
And we're very fit, so the fitness certainly worked.
Absolutely, and Big Jock, was into that. He was very correct in it, and that's why I think that he talked about the Gullen thing. Big Jock was marvellous, and psychology was brilliant, and that a lot of players didn't realise it. I did a lot of training later on in years, reading up on psychology and all that, and I thought Jock Wallace should have written books on this, because he used to say to us, if it was a hard game and you're getting pressed at half time, he'd say, by the way, he says, keep going here. He says, the boys, that other team, they couldn't do Gullen training. They couldn't live with you at Gullen. You're much fitter. Even if you play at the last minute here, you'll beat them. And what happened was, that was why you look at the number of results Rangers got late on, because this belief that the fitness levels were higher. So even though they probably were, you also had the belief, and it meant you kept going, you kept outrunning teams, you were stronger, fitter, and Jock Wallace had got it psychologically.
It's a military thing, like he's like soldiers on.
Yeah.
Soldiers.
You keep going, you battle, you fight away, and it was great. And I think, looking back, as I say, I took a lot from it, and having read up a lot on the psychology and sport and all that sort of thing, which is very important, I think. Jock Wallace was a master. And
years ahead of his time then.
Definitely.
So in the relationship with the when you played with Rangers and when you played in football in general, the supporters and the players were a lot closer.
Yeah.
And it's a great regret now to most fans that the difference is massive. Basically, there is no relationship whatsoever.
It's incredible, Simon, because I remember my day, we were every single weekend, every Saturday night, we were out actually at a supporters club. It was every Saturday night was a different round the country, either collecting an award for yourself, being with somebody else who was collecting an award, or actually even collecting an award on behalf of somebody else. I mean, I used to go in my first season at Rangers away up to Stornoway and everything to collect awards for John Gregg and people like that. So I think, looking back at it, you were very much in harmony with the support, and you knew what the support were thinking, and it was very, very close relationship you had. I mean, it's going to be a bit away from that nowadays. Players are a wee bit, withdrawn from supporters. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, and when you played with Rangers, my father brought me up to believe once you played with Rangers, whoever you are, you'll always be known as a Rangers player throughout your career. So how's your relationship now with the Rangers supporters? I
think it's good. I think from time to time, it was bad. I was quite critical of Rangers during the Advocat era at times, because I just felt that he was spending too much money and not always getting the best out of the teams he had. And I was saying that, and then a lot of the Rangers fans were not pleased with me about it. Can't help that, that's my opinion, and I'm always willing to give my opinion. As I say, Rangers are my team, and I've never been slow, even when other people are afraid to admit it on the media and the radio and all that. I was one of the people who would actually say, I'm a Rangers fan, I'm a Rangers supporter, and other people in the media, you know, and what makes me laugh at times, it's quite easy. Even some of them will say during a programme, oh, I want my team to win. And when it's like, you know, another team other than, if you say you want Rangers to win, you know, they would go berserk about it. So it's the strangest thing. You can't really be a Rangers fan to a degree, and that's maybe why a lot of them do, like, won't admit to it. But I was quite happy to admit to it. I'm quite happy to support Rangers when they need supported, and I'm always comfortable about the club and all that. I like being about the club. I've got great memories here. Best time of my football career was here.
Yeah. So the relationship with the supporter and the way football has moved on in the last 10-15 years, and you've seen the emergence of supporters trust. And as you know, we're involved, myself and the board members are involved with the Rangers supporters trust. But how do you feel as there's been a lot of media critical of the fact that the fans shouldn't have any say in the club?
I don't agree with that at all. I think that it's very important to try and build that harmony. The fans are a critical part of a football club. You want the support there, you want a big crowd, you want to see, look at the period the Rangers had in the 80s when the crowds had disappeared. They've come back, and, you know, let's keep people built into it, because that's what makes a club successful, not only about the money it brings in, but also just in terms of the atmosphere it creates about a club. So I think that I'm a great believer, and I used to have meetings with the trusts, the trust as a whole when I was at the SFA. I would meet them because I thought football should have of fans, the loyalty should be adhered to, the loyalty should be admired and respected, and also the fans should have a say. They shouldn't have a say necessarily in running the club in terms of picking the team and all that sort of thing, but the fans' opinions should be taken on board in terms of, if you're putting policy in place, you should be listening to what the fans are saying about it. And I think that I'm in favour of the trust having a say in the clubs. Yeah,
and you'll also have realised that that although they're normal fans, they're actually people from all backgrounds and all kinds of business experience as
Absolutely.
well.
That's what fans are. I mean, fans are across the board. You could be sitting beside anybody, any walk of life at a football match who is a fan of the club, because that's what it's about. So I think you benefit from all that knowledge and that help. And as I say, I think that, you know, rather than saying, well, rather than fans running the club itself, they should have a say in it, and they should be able to give an opinion and give some sort of towards policy of how the club is being run. I think I'm all in favour of it, Sam.
Yeah, thanks for that. So the last part of the interview, I know you're very good friends with Alan McCoist, who's going to be the new Rangers manager, and also know you're good friends with Walter Smith.
Yeah.
How do you feel it's went from Walter Smith for this season and the future of Rangers?
Yeah, I think it's been terrific. I think that the biggest problem hanging over Rangers has been the buyouts scenario. I think that one of the aspects you can deal with in football or in life in general, you can deal with good news, you can deal with bad news. Uncertainty is the hardest thing to have to cope with, and that's what's happening at the moment. It's, you know, everyone's saying, are they getting bought over? Are the club being bought over? Is there money? Walter Smith has had to deal this year with the fact that, you know, he's not had a lot of money to spend. He got some money. Money went the other way too. Players had to leave, but also he's had to bring in loan players. Made good signings in that respect, because Rangers are up there competing. They've been competing in 3 tournaments. They're out the Scottish Cup, obviously, but, you know, they're competing at home in the 3 tournaments. They've won the CIS Cup now. They're still up there in the league with a chance of winning it. It's a question of whether the squad gets depleted with injuries or suspensions. That's the hardest part. You can't do anything about it now because players can't be brought in. So I think Walter Smith, when you think about it, since he came back to Rangers, when he was brought back in, I think he's done a marvellous job. And I think that, you know, it's very brave of him to walk away and just say, that's me finished. But Ali McCoist has waited his turn. He's learned it. He'll have a lot of ideas he can't bring in yet, because the manager does have the ideas. I was assistant manager at St Mirren, and you do have to adhere to what the manager wants. You cannot dictate an assistant. If I'd suddenly become the manager, I would have changed things immediately, and I'm sure Ali McCoist will be thinking the same way. So I think Ali will do well, but it all depends on what sort of backing he's going to get, and in that respect, I mean the financial backing, in terms of whether he can actually maintain the squad he's got, keep the players here, but also maybe bring in 1 or 2 additions that will strengthen Rangers for coming years.
And how do you feel, lastly, how do you feel the league will go this season?